All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie, and I am here to talk about writing and how we write for ourselves and how we publish for others. So let me just share my slides. There we go. All right. And you can find me on Twitter at Jamie Woo, where it's mostly dog material, food material, RuPaul's Drag Race material. So if you are interested in any of those, you can find me there. If you're not, then probably you can skip on that. All right, so let's start with, all right, so hi, it's very nice to meet all of you. And I've got a question for you. What is the story that you have to tell? And I don't mean, you as in a generic you. I mean, actually you with your own experiences and everything that you've been through and that you think about. There's a story in you that you can tell that no one else can tell. There's a saying that every story has been written under the sun. So really what matters is how you tell it. We can tell the same story. Everyone can tell the same story through their own lens, and it suddenly becomes different and interesting. And the fact is, you are telling stories all the time. All right, you're telling stories in your chats, especially now that we're all kind of mandated at home a lot of times. We're in a lot of group chats. We're on Slack, we're on Discord right now. You're telling stories through your emails, maybe you're updating people, or maybe you're telling a story about how, you want to purchase a house and you should be the one that gets that house. So you're going to tell that story about what that house means to you through an email. And then today I love. We've seen all day long zines. So I'm definitely going to talk about zines as well. So that's very exciting. But we're also telling our own stories sometimes through our ways that we publish things. And I believe that you should feel confident telling your story. How do you see the world in a way that no one else does? So that no is all the way on the right side. And how do you feel confident telling that story to the world? Because unfortunately, we kind of live in a world where if you're a little bit too different, or you are a little quirky, or you have your own perspective, it can be really easy for other people to kind of shut that down. Not because they necessarily think that you're wrong, but because sometimes we're afraid that if other people are telling their stories, then ours get lost. And that's actually not the case. I'm here to tell you that the more we tell our own stories, actually the more we realize that we're not alone and that we're all connected, and that we have to actually find the courage then to tell our stories authentically, because through doing that, we actually connect with each other. So who am I? I am your friendly writer helper. I've been writing professionally for over a decade. I've been very lucky to be published nationally, and I have an award-nominated book. I did not go to school for writing. I didn't go to J school. I actually majored in biomedical engineering. I was a molecular biologist for 3 years. And I taught myself, if you want to be a writer, one of the things I will say is you have to be a reader. That's the thing I ask everyone immediately when people say, oh, I want to write, I wish I could write. I go, what are you reading? Because if you're not reading, it's that input-output. You're not actually going to be able to write as well as you can. So if you want to write, you got to read. You got to see what other people are writing. And I'm going to share actually some of the pieces I've been working on just to kind of help explain my process through writing. But this isn't really about me, even though it says who am I in the upper left corner. This is really about you. All right, so I want all of you out there to think of a writing project that you've been meaning to do. Okay, it doesn't have to be super big. It doesn't have to be the great, I'm from Canada, so it doesn't have to be the great Canadian novel. It can even be that text message you've been meaning to send, but you haven't. It could be a letter. It can be a story. It could be a blog post. I want you to take 15 seconds right now to think of a writing project that you've been meaning to do. Okay? All right. Everyone got something in mind? If not, don't worry. The exercise, you won't fall behind because, this should be very practical. And if something pops up along the way, you're good to go. Okay, the first thing that always you have to ask when you have a product is, or a new project is, what do you have to say? All right, and sometimes this can kind of stick people, or they can block people up because they know they have something to say, but they haven't really thought through exactly what they're trying to say. And I call this wedding best man or maid of honor syndrome. Okay, if you've been to a wedding, you know this happens. The best man or the maid of honor goes up there, maybe they had a couple of drinks, and they start telling a story. And you can tell they're telling the story because they love, love, love the bride or the groom, but they're not really sure what they actually have to say. So they just kind of ramble for like 7, 8, 9 minutes. There's a lot of inside jokes that is only really funny to a couple of people. There's a lot of stories that they're only half telling. And you listen because you go, you know, I can feel the love. I know that they're trying to express something that's really kind of warm, but it's a little bit unaccessible. You know, you sit there and go, oh, I wish I knew more about these stories, or I wish I could kind of like fit into that more. And that's a kind of time when you haven't really thought of what you have to say. You just know you want to say it. So 2 really easy questions to think about. The first one is, why does it matter? All right, so think about the writing project that you have and what you want to say, and then say to yourself, why does this matter? Why is this important? Because everyone is busy, including yourself, and you don't actually have time to spend writing something that isn't going to make you happy or doesn't feel satisfactory. So why is it that what you write right now matters? So maybe if it is, you know, the speech at the wedding, it's because I really want everyone to know how good a person, you know, the bride or groom, or bride, or groom, you know, are up there, and I want everyone to feel as happy as I am for them. And why does it matter now? The reason you have to ask this is because timing does matter. You know, if this mattered, if someone was like, if someone, let's say a year or 2 ago, had written a piece about the 1918 flu pandemic, it would have, you know, it's important because it's part of history, but people would have been like, okay, I don't really know why you're talking about this right now. Whereas if you write about it now, everyone goes, okay, we're in a moment where I can connect with that. All of a sudden, it clicks and you want to read it. And so part of the writing process, and actually if you want to read it, you'll want to write it. And that's part of the writing process. Why does it matter? And why does it matter now? Okay, if you can do that thinking before you start writing, it's going to really help focus and give you that energy to write, because writing is not fun. Okay, people want to make it say it's fun, but it's only fun in the dreaming part. And then when you get down to look at the words, it's tiring. And halfway through, you're not going to want to do it again. And if you remember these 2 questions, it's going to really help give you the energy to keep going. If you keep going, oh, why does this matter? And why does this matter now? Why am I writing this? All right, so next. So I want to give you actually this example. So this is one of the favorite pieces that I've written recently. I got a chance to write for StarTrek.com, which to me, I mean, I not only got to write for StarTrek.com, but I got to write about something very personal for myself. I got to write about how I had all these different identities, you know, an Asian identity, a queer identity, a STEM-focused identity, and watching Star Trek helped me kind of bring all those together. And I remember watching Star Trek with my mom. She would tell me about the 1960s version of it. There'd be reruns on, and I would sit on the couch beside her and watch Next Generation, and she just loved it. You know, she was always so happy watching it. And she's, you know, watching Picard now, which is very nice to know that's out there. But it was just one of those treasured childhood memories, and it was important to me to write this. So why does it matter? It was important for me to write this because it was a chance to share how a show helped me figure out, you know, felt me feel confident in who I wanted to be. And that seemed like it matters, you know, us being able to feel seen, that really does matter. And being able to say that I'm not alone out there. I was very excited to write this piece. Why did it matter now? Well, actually I wrote it during Pride Month. So it came out June 21st. And unfortunately, you know, right now a lot of Pride seasons are being canceled. But it was really pertinent because that was a time when everyone's kind of thinking about it. So even, with every piece, even if that's not the main, you're not writing it just for the why does it matter now or why does it matter. You need to kind of know it so that it kind of fits in the world around us. All right, who are you writing for? This one is really important because depending on your project, you could be writing for yourself. If you're journaling, you're writing for yourself. If you are writing to your boss, then you're writing to your boss. If you're writing to your friends, knowing who you're writing for really matters because then you can kind of envision it. You don't necessarily tell the same stories to your friends over brunch in the same way that you might tell if you're visiting your grandparents, for example. So who you're writing for, who you're telling these stories for matter, and being able to keep them in your mind will actually energize you because it feels way more personal. One thing that becomes really hard is people go, I want my writing to be popular, so I want to write it for everyone. Now try to imagine writing for everyone. What does that look like? We're all so different. We all have our own likes and dislikes, and we have all these different things that really speak to us. It's very hard to write universally. The truth is you actually write very specifically, and people, because we're all unique, can tap into that. So if you're writing something, one trick is to not think about writing for everyone. Be really, really specific. If you're writing for your best friend, write for your best friend. If you're writing for dog owners who decide to name their dogs after food, then write specifically for those people because you have an idea of exactly what those people are kind of like. So here I was writing for multiple audiences. I was writing for the StarTrek.com audience, obviously. I was also writing because I wanted to really represent people of color, specifically Asian people, people of Asian descent. I wanted to write for queer people. I really wanted to highlight how that kind of central analogy in Star Trek of different people and different types comes through, and how that could kind of give some confidence that really it was like intelligence and empathy that mattered in the show. And that's why I felt like mattered as people. And so I really wanted to write for those audiences. And hopefully, maybe there was someone out there who was very similar in a similar situation to me who felt less alone. So I wrote most for that person above all. What do you want to happen with your words? Now, this is really important because sometimes we get very vague about this. We go, what I would like is just for people to really like this writing. And that is a really nice thing to want, but it won't give you the kind of traction that you need when you're writing because it isn't specific enough. You really want to think about what feelings you want to leave people with, or what do you want them to do? And the three kind of general types that you get are you can inform people, you can entertain them, or you can inspire them. And they're not all separate, right? They do overlap. But if you can think about this, say, which of these do we want to do? They really do shape the way that you tell your story and how you write. And that really does matter because then people can kind of lock in. People don't necessarily go to, let's say, an Avengers film looking to be deeply informed about some subject. They mostly want to be entertained and inspired. They might learn something, but that's not the primary reason they're going for that. If you're kind of reading like a beach read, you're again looking to mostly be entertained, maybe a bit inspired. But if you're reading a design book, right, the design of everyday things, looking to be informed. You have a real reason why you want to go and pick that up and spend that time. I think so here, yeah, it was just mainly, I always try to be entertaining with pieces that are kind of more broad here, because if you're on StarTrek.com, and I really want to respect your time, I want to make sure that when you're reading it, you feel like you haven't wasted it. So I want it to be entertaining. I don't want this to be a slog. I don't want this to feel like a history lesson. And then I wanted it to inspire. I really wanted a chance for people to maybe get a chance to, I talk about just kind of being a kid and feeling really, really nerdy about liking technical things, and how my curiosity for the world around me almost felt like a bad thing. It's really tough always being a curious kid and kind of being told that was too much for people. And yet in the world of Star Trek, I could feel like that was not enough. I could continue to learn and keep growing through it. What outcome will make you happy in the end? And this question is important because we want to manage our own expectations. You know, if you want to write something just for yourself, that is a great reason to write, right? If you want to write a story and it's there to entertain yourself and you're happy that you did the process, that is a legitimate outcome. We kind of get tricked into thinking that everything has to become a blockbuster, everything has to be up to the bestsellers list, everything has to be universally lauded. That is not reachable for most people, and it's not, if that's the reason to do it, you're probably not going to be very happy along the way, because then you're constantly trying to write for, again, this kind of like level of popularity. So think with your writing project right now, what outcome will make you happy in the end? Is there a specific thing that you want for it? If it's a salary negotiation, maybe you want to get more salary. That would be the outcome that would make you happy. If you miss a friend and you're writing them, then just getting them to write back and know that they're well and happy and give you an update, that's the outcome that you want. So for the writing project that you're doing, think about what outcome will make you happy in the end. Here it was just being published felt amazing. I didn't know what the response was going to be. And nowadays it's so kind of crowded out there with material. And I knew I was very niche with this. So I wanted to just get it out there because it was a way for me to write about my experiences, but really it was also an ode to my mom, just for really, you know, she supported me being very curious, but also, you know, by watching Star Trek Beside Her gave me such a great memory. And so that was another outcome, was just to be able to write this. And I shared it with my mom. She was very happy reading it. She keeps bugging me to take her to a Star Trek convention, which, I mean, nowadays, I don't know how that's going to happen, but I mean, I'm going to find a way. But that was part of the outcome that I wanted for this piece. All right, so now I hope you have a pen and paper. I mean, you have zine material, you've got, you know, lots of things around you. If you don't, I'm going to keep talking, so you can go quickly get yourself a pen and paper, or, you know, minimize the screen and open up a tab so you can do some writing. When you have your idea and you know who you're writing for, and you know why it matters and why it matters now, and you know what outcome you're going to be happy with, now the next step is to start your first draft, to start brainstorming. And I have a couple of tips for you for how to get this going, because the blank screen is it's the most terrifying thing that a writer can see, because you think it's full of possibility, but really there's too much possibility. This is why constraints are great. If you tell a writer, oh, just write something that you like, it's going to paralyze them. When you give specifics, it makes things a lot easier, which is kind of why we did some of the questions before, because we're making your writing project more specific. And once you have more constraints, the easier it is to write. Now for this exercise, you're going to take 2 minutes to write down everything you know. Don't edit, don't judge. Everything you know about your subject. Okay, so for me, it would have been like, oh, I watched it as, you know, The Next Generation as a kid. I knew that George Takei had come out. I very much wanted to be an astronaut because of that. I just started writing everything I know. All right, we're going to take 2 minutes and go. All right, we're going to do 1 more minute. We're going to do, you know, presentation 2 minutes, which means, you know, whenever I think it's time to move on, versus 2 actual real human time moments. All right, I hope you've got yeah, something written down. If it's not super long, you don't need to worry. If it is super long, great. Now, the reason I said don't edit and don't judge is because you can do this exercise actually quite a few times. The point of this is not, we get very much into an editing brain before it's time to edit. And this can be really difficult when you're trying to write something then. You need to first write down everything you know. And then what you would do, so I love writing on paper for this reason. What I do then is I take the things that I've written down and then I suddenly go, oh, I know 3 more points about that. And I quickly jot those down. And then I go, oh, this thing I know a bit more too. And I just keep writing it down. And I can, sometimes draw arrows around and connect things. What I don't do is I don't cross things out. Unless it's a fact that is, I'm like, oh, actually that didn't happen at all. I could cross that out. But I don't edit, I don't judge what I put down here, because what you're doing is you're gathering your ingredients. You're gathering everything that you need to create something, and you don't really know yet. This is the fun part of writing. You're going to discover what you're building. So you don't want to start judging and saying, I don't want this or I don't want that. Instead, you want to create the ability to really, get that brain going and get all those memories happening. All right. You're also doing great. I put this in here because, I know after you put down like 2 minutes of stuff, it's so easy. Like we get so critical right away. You go, oh, maybe this list wasn't long enough. Or why did I write this thing? It doesn't matter. Our brains are so practiced in criticizing our own work, in trying to tell us what is going wrong. Don't worry, you're doing great. The list that you have is awesome. We can work with it. We can continue to make it grow. You're going to be able to build something out of it. We're just going to keep moving forward. That's what matters. Okay, so now the next step is I'm going to show you a very easy framework that you can use that will help shape your writing, because frameworks are great. You don't have to stick with it, but if you kind of use it, you can kind of see the shape of your writing, and then you can take it wherever you want to go. So the first question is, what do people need to know to understand your writing? Okay, this is a very important question because you will be the expert of whatever you want to write about. Because remember, it's not just about the content, it's how you write it, and you're the expert in you. The tricky thing is sometimes we can end up jumping too fast into the writing and not giving everyone else a chance to be able to latch on to it. So this is, again, this is the best man, maid of honor, non-gender conforming person who is doing a speech up at the wedding. And they're just telling these stories that no one else can connect with. And they're very nice stories, but I don't understand the story. I don't know what's going on. I just know that there was one time that the 7 of you remember that time with the grocery cart, and then, and then it was crazy. And it was like, I'm gonna have a sip of water. I don't really know what this story is about. Don't do that to people, please. What do people need to know to understand your writing? All right, after you've got that, what is a problem that you are writing about? There's always going to be a problem. This is in classical, if you study fiction or you study screenwriting, it's this idea of conflict. There has to be tension. We like reading pieces that have some kind of oppositional forces to it. What is the problem? Everyone always has a problem. They always have a goal. They always have a need, right? What is the thing that you need, or what's the goal? What are you trying to reach? That can sometimes be the problem that you're writing about. What is the solution that you think is worth writing about? Okay, so after you've given people what they need to know, then you provide the problem, and because you've given them everything that they need to know, they can understand the problem. They get exactly what you're trying to, what problem you're facing. Then it's the solution. All right, which solution are you going to talk about? And it doesn't have to be exhaustive. It can just be, the solution is I would like to get compensated a little bit more money. Or the solution is I would like to know how you're doing. Are you okay? I'm writing just to check in on you. Is everything all right? Just let me know. That's the solution to my problem. That's the third step. Background, problem, solution, and then benefits. All right, what are the benefits of the solution you've written about? Why do we want this? What's going to happen because of it? And this framework is amazing. It works I've done this with literally hundreds of people because I do a lot of engineering blogging work in my career, and people who never thought they could write. This framework really opens things up for them. And it doesn't have to be, though, just for something that's technical. I'm just going to tell you a story. All right. Oh, I think part of the bottom's cut off, but so it is. Janelle loves rock climbing. She wants to climb at 512. Okay, so I cheated a little bit here. 512 is a level of climbing. Should have given you the full background. That's my background. Now, here's my problem. 5 trails are very difficult, and Janelle has a goal to climb one by end of summer. So now you know something. You know that this is about rock climbing. You know that Janelle wants to climb something that's very difficult. You know that Janelle has made a goal. What's the solution? Well, Janelle practices climbing 4 times a week with a coach. Ah, that's wonderful that she has the ability to devote that time to it and get better with it. What are the benefits? She's able to build her skills and accomplishes her goal on August 17th, which is before the end of summer. So this is a very simple story. You know, it's not going to win a Pulitzer, but it follows background, problem, solution, benefits, and it's a complete story. You now know, what is going on here, and it kind of shows the power of this framework. Okay, so with the writing project you have, we're not going to necessarily do this right now, even though I know you can jot it down while I'm talking. We're not going to do it now because sometimes it can take a little bit of time to think through those things. But after tonight's done, you have a little bit of time to devote to your writing. Think about your background, your problem, your solution, and your benefits. All right, here's another trick. I wanted to make sure this is as practical as possible for all of you. Tell your story aloud. Okay, pretend you're telling it directly to the person that you're writing for. Writing should have been in there. Why this matters is because actually we're really trained to tell our stories in an oral fashion. This is how we've kind of passed down storytelling for a long time. And so many of us are much more trained in telling that, right? Whether we're out at a party or at a dinner or we're just on the phone with someone, we're telling stories all the time. So if you're feeling a bit stuck, what can happen is when we're writing words, because we're writing each one down, we can get very stuck on them. Like, oh, that's not the right word, or that phrasing isn't great, or I don't understand what's going on. Instead, just tell the story. Tell the story aloud. Still have the framework. Say, okay, this is the background, this is the problem, this is the solution, these are the benefits. Tell that story again and again and see which details you want to include and which ones you don't. Record it. You're not going to lose anything then, right? Because this is about how writing is an evolution. You can always come back and say, actually, I liked this sentence I said in version 1, but then I made a really good point in version 3. And if I put them together, oh, that's really good. That makes a lot of sense. Tell the story either aloud to yourself or aloud to someone else, but give yourself that space to not just be anchored to one format, because what you're going to see is actually it opens up. And maybe the way you speak, the way you speak is the way that you want to write. That could be it. Or maybe you take a look at the points and you go, actually, okay, now I know how I'm going to write this in a different voice. It just kind of unlocks things. And that's what we want to do. We're going to have as many tools in our toolkit to unlock our writing. All right, and this is from Anne Lamott, who wrote this wonderful book on writing called Bird by Bird. I'll post links after, and I'm such a fan of this book. It made me feel so seen, and it made me feel confident as a writer. Everyone's first draft is, okay? If you read a first draft that's not, then they have written actually multiple drafts before and they've told you it's their first draft. Okay, I do this a lot. When my editor's like, hey, can you send me a first draft? I've written 7 drafts and then that's the one I send. But the very, very first one that I put down, it's not good. Okay, it can't be good because this is an experiment. We're trying things. We're trying to make connections. We're trying to, brainstorm and see what's happening out there. We're not gonna get it right. In fact, error is important. If you're not getting it wrong, that means you're not learning anything from it. So actually, you want your first draft to be as crappy as possible because that's how you learn. By seeing what you like and what you don't like, you can make those choices for yourself as a writer. Okay, so when you're writing your first draft, it's so easy to go, this is so bad. It's never going to get great. Guess what? You did the first step. You wrote the first draft. It's bad for a reason because everyone's first draft is bad. And then you have something that you can build on for your second draft. And by writing that first draft, you've done more than most people who want to write. Okay, so know that it is okay that your first draft is bad. And on the way, depending on what your goal is, now this is more, if you're just writing an email, you don't necessarily need to test it, but you can, right? I mean, for corporate emails, you might want to test it with someone. For a message that might be a bit sensitive, if you have to tell something to someone, you're like, I don't know if I got this tone right. Share your draft as early as when you feel comfortable, but while you're still open to feedback. part of the problem is we don't want to share our work before we're comfortable, because then it means that we're going to not listen to it because we feel too vulnerable. Another problem is we can get so stuck on our drafts that we fall in love with them. And then we fall in love with every word. And then when people give us feedback, we go, you remember. I'm laughing because actually with my business partner, we get into this sometimes where I've written something and I've fallen in love with it. And then when he's like, oh, actually this sentence, we can cut it. I go, oh, I think of how long I spent, crafting it and how it made me chuckle. And yeah, maybe I know it's not quite perfect for this piece, but okay. Make sure you're open to feedback. Oh, I'm seeing that I'm running out of time. So let me keep moving on this. It's never going to be perfect. All right, you got to let it out into the wild at some point. It's okay. It's never going to be perfect. You've got other things to write. You can move on with it. All right, now we're going to get into the publishing part, and I swear I'll get this through in 2 minutes. Who's waiting to read what you've written? This is so important because you need to know who's out there. And maybe, again, it's yourself. Maybe it's other people, but really think about them. I love Tim Gunn in Project Runway and then in Making the Cut. He always says, who's the girl? When he looks at an outfit, who's this girl? Where's she going? What is she going to a party? Why is she wearing this? Same thing with your writing. Who are you writing this for? What are they doing when they're reading this? The example I'm going to give is this zine that I created called the Post Incident Review, co-created with my co-founder. And we're nerds about incident response. We love talking about on-call rotations and how did the system go down and how did everyone get together? Did they use IMS to put this all together? And afterwards, what lessons did you learn? Did you do safety 1 or safety 2? And we were trying to find other things out there that kind of did the same thing. And we found some things, but we're like, it's not quite the way we would have put it. And there might be people who care about this stuff the same way. And so actually what you're seeing, there's an illustration that Denise did, because in their very first issue, we did lessons learned about how you can actually get post-incident reviews spread to people so that they can read it and learn from it. And you have to trust yourself and your audience, because if you can find out what they want, what we did was we made it very beautifully laid out. We took a previously printed incident review or report, and then we made it very beautiful to read, because it's very different than when it's on a blog post and you're just like, oh, okay, I got 3 other things open. What if I give myself the time and space to see it? And we included some charming elements to it because on-call is so serious, and we're so lucky that Denise contributed these amazing photos of where people have gotten on call at different times. And it's to say, hey, you're not alone. We can kind of make this playful and fun because we want to learn, and it's not fun to learn if everything's so grim. And from there, what we actually found was we were able to get some really nice feedback from it. We've got people who are reading it and saying, hey, this resonates with me. Wait a second, I like incident reviews. I like incident response. I think this is fun. I want to do this. And we brought it to SRECon, when conferences were a thing. And people were just so excited. They were picking up copies and they were reading it and they were, just sharing it with each other. And that's the response that you kind of want around your writing, is that you got the right target audience when people are excited and they want to spend time with the thing that you created. Do you speak to them? That's the big thing. Do you say something that they were also curious about, and because you had the courage to write about it, they can now, also have something on it that teaches them. But also remember, do it while speaking to yourself. Okay, it can be very easy to fall into the marketing trap of just writing for other people, but then you forget the most important part, which is it has to be through your lens. How do you see the world? Because that's when people are going to connect most. And this is my final slide. Writing is a process of discovery. Okay, and I love this Georgia O'Keeffe quote: "Whether you succeed or not is irrelevant. There is no such thing. Making your unknown known is the important thing, and keeping the unknown always beyond you." That's what writing is about. You get to learn about yourself while you write, and you get to share that with the world. And when people connect with it, if you find the right people, they're going to make you feel like that part of you matters. And that's really cool. And then even better, sometimes you create something that makes them realize that that part of them matters. Anyway, so that's my time. You can find the zine at zine.incidentlabs.io. the URL got cut off at the bottom of the slides, unfortunately.
If you put it in your Discord channel.
Ooh, I will put it in my Discord
Yeah.
channel. You can find it there. Please subscribe. It's free. It's really fun. We made a printable version that you can print up, and you also have a black and white version of Denise's illustrations. You can color them in if you like. But I'm so excited for all of you in your writing journey, and I hope that you enjoy the process.